So hi everyone, it's a pleasure to welcome you all to our webinar today, the Ask Me Anything session. Thank you for joining us. Today we've got experts from across SIPPIO here to answer any questions that you have related to Microsoft Teams and Zoom. Before we dive in though, I'd like to give the team the opportunity to introduce themselves and explain their role in a bit more detail. So let's start with you, Marie.
Okay, so I think everyone probably knows me at this point. I'm the general manager, COO, kind of oversee sales, marketing, and anything else that needs done.
Great. Hi, my name is David Spindler. I'm the SVP of operations and development. So anything that Marie does, my team and I, we work and make sure it gets fulfilled and developed accordingly. Nice to meet you all.
He's the brains behind all of the tool sets.
Thank you. Neil?
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Neil Whitelock. I work closely with the team on the call here. I head up the business in Europe, and we're working closely with our carriers and MSP partners to bring to life, obviously, the service we'll share with you on the phone. So good to meet you all.
Hi, everyone. My name is Manny Oliveira. I am a channel account manager on the sales side, obviously working with our partner community and all things SIPPIO.
And my name's Rob Coker. I do sales engineering. Basically, I get to work with a good deal of our partners on the initial activations. And yeah, I take care of the technical engagement facing our partners and customers.
Steph, I think you're the last one.
Hello, everyone. My name is Steph. I'm a partner services coordinator working with our various partners on client orders and assigning resources for service transitions, as well as I manage the porting team here at SIPPIO.
Fantastic. Thank you, everyone. It's a real smorgasbord of talent and insight from across the team today then. So for today's session, we're going to do things a little differently. As an Ask Us Anything session, we're going to need your input and questions to keep the session moving along. So if there's anything you'd like to ask the team, just enter your question in the chat box and we'll take it from there. Don't be shy, whatever's on your mind, whether it's engineering, sales enablement, go-to-market, we're here to answer your questions. Some of you have already submitted questions in advance of today's session, so I think we'll get started right there. And we've got a question here for David from Andrew in Denver, and he asks, I saw your release notes earlier this week. Can you tell me what's new at SIPPIO so I don't have to read them?
Sure. Well, as you can imagine, we have a phenomenal platform that services not just the end customers that you work with, but also our carrier community. And this is our platform that ultimately we present out to the general public. Now, what we added this past sprint was we added what we call a My Catalog feature. So because we got multiple layers within our organization in our platform, as you know, SIPPIO doesn't sell direct, we sell to partners and then partners sell to subscribers. So we've enabled the capability for a partner to add their own products and SKUs into the tool. So whether you're taking an existing SIPPIO product and adding managed services or a physical device, we've given you that capability to ultimately do that. It's quite easy. It's 4 easy steps. The first one is obviously the product information. The second one is how you want to configure the activation or pricing or what pieces are in there. And then what's your wholesale price if you're selling to a partner or if you're selling to a subscriber, and then ultimately launching that product out to the marketplace. The other thing we've added is we've added additional what we call a distribution view or carrier view. And where this is where we, as you know, we do work with carriers directly, and them carriers have partners. So we've enabled the tool also not only to allow that distributor or that partner, that carrier to sell to them partners, but we've added a pile of new features like adding your logo, your own URL. Again, the My Catalog feature comes into play. Also, some of these carriers are using SIPPIO for our Operator Connect, as an example. So in this view, they can build their SKU, they can build what they want to present out to the marketplace. So that catalog feature is pretty massive. And then last but not least is, really around that customization, which I just referred to, which is the URL, adding the logo, the colors, and then what plugs and access you want to provide at all levels. So really a lot's being delivered this last little while. And if you want to engage with me directly, I can absolutely, me and my team can work with you to give you a demo, get into the detail, and we can show you how to maximize the use of them services that we've just launched. Hope that helps in what we've delivered recently.
Fantastic. So much better partner experience then for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Great. So the next question comes from Simon in New York, and he has an enterprise customer who's currently using Teams and Zoom. They're getting ready to move their voice into the cloud, but which platform should they lead with? Kick this one to Dawn Marie.
Oh, which platform should they lead with? Well, we support both Microsoft Teams and Zoom today. And one of the really cool things about the partner toolset, if you haven't looked at it, or if you're not overly familiar with it because you're, in a role that's, not looking at it every day, is you can manage both environments from the same interface. So when people talk about single pane of glass, it truly is that single pane of glass. Now, I'll let you in on a little secret that Microsoft and Zoom don't really care for, but you can also allow your customers, or your customers can do the work on their behalf to move their collaboration platform from one to the other. So once we have the number and we are supplying the dial tone to voice enable those two platforms, it really doesn't matter to us where you're going to point or direct that traffic to. So sometimes you might have a customer where they get a new CTO, and that CTO is more of a Zoom, Google type of person. So they may want to direct people there. Or I know, Manny, you have a customer that is, what would you call it, bipartisan, where one division is one and one is the other. I'll let you talk about that.
Yeah, so we had most recently with one of our partners, we had a customer that had merged with another organization, and half the business was Zoom and half the business was Teams. And when I look at the question, which platform should I lead in with? Quite honestly, we should lead in with the platform that the customer has a desire, right, for. So again, as Dawn Marie alluded to, we work with both platforms, and quite honestly, it's about making it as seamless and painless for the customer, right? And it's okay if 50%, 20% of the business is on Zoom and the rest of it's on Teams, no problem. We can handle both parts.
Yeah, so same platform for everything, same tool set for everything. And it's really about, giving your customers a great customer experience, because they don't have to familiarize themselves with a whole new world to move. And I think we've alluded to before that we're really trying to bring WebEx on as well. That's just been a longer journey for us based on, some things that are happening in Cisco. But that's fully our intention once they open that up, is to provide, some of those key collaboration logos for you to represent. So then it doesn't really matter what the end platform for their collaboration needs is. Okay.
Fantastic. So thinking about that customer experience, then that leads in really well into our next question, which is from Daniel in Austin. And he'd like to know why the porting process takes so long, and why is there so much paperwork involved?
That's certainly a very good question, and it's one that we get posed very often. The porting process hasn't really changed over several years, and we do realize it's the most important task, as it's the last step to officially transitioning services to the new environment. So depending on the country, complexity of the existing numbers, as well as the losing service provider involved, the porting requirements and timelines will differ. So from a documentation standpoint, in most countries, a signed letter of authorization or letter of agency is required, as well as a copy of the latest invoice. These are required by FCC in the US, CRTC in Canada, as well as other regulatory agencies in other countries. It's not a SIPPIO requirement per se. However, the invoice, as well as a CSR, so a listing of all services, will help the customer, submit the documentation adequately, so we can, have a successful port. So Again, in regards to the other countries, certain countries require more specific documentation, and we'll work with you in order to gather that information. You have access to resources such as a country by country service guide outlining all the requirements, as well as a porting process guide. We also have SIPPIO porting specialists available to answer any questions, concerns you may have. So then again, we ensure, you have a successful experience. So as for the timelines, again, I've outlined, depending on the country, porting complexity. But at that point, we need to provide adequate time for the losing carrier to respond, and also give you and your customer adequate time to make the necessary preparations to transition to the new environment.
Yeah. So from what I see in here, sorry about that, is, the number one thing is incompleteness of information. So if you think about maybe when you're in university or at college turning in a test, you wouldn't leave any questions blank, because if you left questions blank, you're going to get them marked wrong and you're going to not pass. So just doing due diligence with your customer that they provide all the information solves better than 90% of all the woes of the back and forth. And I think, David, you wanted to say something there too.
Yeah, so everything obviously that Steph communicated is actually available in the partner portal. So when you go in and create a quote and you select the country and the service, whether it be Teams or and the package or it's Zoom, will indicate and tell you what documentation you require and give you the capability to upload that said documentation even in the quote and order submission stage. So while, yes, the porting guide, we've digitized it, we've digitized that process directly right on the partner portal, and it really is as simple as clicking the SKU, clicking the country, and then it tells you exactly what information required, whether it's an LOA, whether it's a CSR, whether there's a condition in that particular country. For example, in some countries, there's a minimum requirement, the number of activations or DIDs you have to do in a particular country, only a couple of them. But we want to tell you that, so that way there's no surprises. And in that quoting process, we also give you the insight and the paperwork in order to say, well, if you're going to that end customer, you have to collect an LOA, a CSR, a copy of the invoice, etc. Then we also give you that capability to pass that on to your customers so they know what they're going to need to provide to activate the service. So again, it's pretty self-explanatory. And as Steph's alluded to, we've got a bunch of folks that if you're having concern or question, you want to have a call about it, we're here to help. But again, try it out. Go to the partner portal, create a quote. It is a quote. It's not an order. There's no commitment yet at that point. So go through it and pick a country and see what documentation you require by the 74 countries that we provide service in. It's pretty self-explanatory. Thanks.
That's amazing. Thank you. So just before we move on, I want to remind everyone that the chat window is here if you've got any questions. If you want the team to answer anything, just type it in. We'll make sure it gets answered on the session. But next up, we've got a question from Mary in Toronto, and this one is for Dawn Marie. She says, my customer's Avaya contract is up in a few months. SIPPIO had an Avaya business. Why should they migrate and how?
I think that's actually for Manny.
Manny, sorry. Go ahead.
That's all right.
Got it. That's okay. Why should they migrate and how? Well, the process to migrate them forward, if they are a Microsoft Teams or a Zoom house, is simple, right? And it's simple in the sense that we are already the provider on the Avaya side. So we're not porting any numbers. We're basically shifting the carrier services from one platform, the Avaya, over to our Zoom and or Teams solution. So the process is very simple there. It mitigates any potential gotchas as it pertains to porting, and it's a very simple process. However, the understanding is that the customer must be right on Teams or Zoom. If they are not on Microsoft Teams or Zoom and they are unwilling to move into that cloud solution, then unfortunately the only option that they have is to look at another alternate solution in the market.
Yeah, so I think we still have a good number of Avaya seats in our business. And as you know, the VIA business that we have, or if you don't know, it's IP Office. They sunset that solution when they made an arrangement to sell a version of Ring Central that they call ACO. It's always good to be talking to your customers to see what they want to do next, because that transition from IP Office to somewhere else could be kind of lengthy or costly for them. And Microsoft and Zoom are both in the news and the press right now, and they're starting a new trend for future of using collaboration. So make sure that you're not just letting your customers sit there idly. We've gotten a few phone calls recently that were kind of concerning from partners, like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize my customer is expiring next month. Okay, well, we're here to help you with that, but as a trusted advisor, like, you should know and understand that information. If you don't know what your footprint is there, we are happy to help you. You can reach out to Manny, Steve, or Neil, depending on your territory, and we'll help you with that. And we'll also help you with the customer engagement and the sales cycle if you need it. We handhold the partner all the way through that to assist them. There's a lot of angst going on in the marketplace right now with some of the traditional telco vendors. I think we're sending out some links to some recent announcements and information in our Partner Insider newsletter. But it's a good time to see what customers are thinking about and take their temperature and make sure that you're leading, with being their trusted advisor and showing them different options that they have.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. We're going to jump across the pond for our next question. And this one comes from Robert, who's in London. And maybe, Neil, you'd like to field this one. But Robert saw Zoom's earning announcement earlier this week. The Zoom Phone, as you all might be aware, has exceeded 4 million seats, while Microsoft has 12 million. The figures are lower than what the industry has previously speculated. Is the market as big and as lucrative as you say it is?
It's a hot topic, and it's a timely question. 2 or 3 insights. We're talking with a lot of our partners, whether they be MSPs or carriers. We're in Q3, calendar Q4 is looming upon us, and people are moving into that phase called budgeting. So, of course, they're looking at target addressable market. And again, these announcements were timely for that reason alone. And I guess ultimately you can look at it as glass half empty, glass half full. Yes, there's a perception the numbers are a little lower than people anticipated or have been previously shared. But again, as we've dug a little deeper and going through these joint budgeting processes, what we're finding is the actual customer behavior is indicating everything is working towards an outcome. And if you think about it, back in 2020, everybody rushed into a platform of some sorts to work, whatever it may have been. And everybody survived and was sort of worked through 2020 and 21. People have been able to step back and almost draw breath and now look at their hybrid strategy and, more importantly, put in place things like policies. How are we going to continue to work in this environment? What does it mean for the organization? They've gone through the process of probably setting up a SharePoint or another sort of sharing platform. They've certainly locked down their security processes. And sort of the 3rd or 4th step of that journey is voice. Now, it may, it has a natural place as they've gone around building that hybrid strategy. And we're beginning to see that voice pillar become very prominent now with regard to mid-market and enterprise clients because the time is right. So I think to answer the question, yeah, we acknowledge the numbers were probably a little shy of where everybody thought it was. Let's put it into perspective. They've hit these numbers in 3 years compared to many of the VoIP providers that took 4, 5, 6 years to get there. So the velocity is quicker. And I think if we were to share a number to finish the answer, there's something like 280 million Teams users, well over 200 million Zoom users. You can for yourself see what that target addressable market looks like. So I think, yeah, the time is right now to sort of embrace voice and take that message back to your clients, which is we can help you to sort of fulfill your hybrid working strategy.
Yeah, so one other thing I'll say there is it's pretty amazing that Zoom is at 4 million seats, because just this past spring they were at 2 million. So they've doubled in a matter of 3 months. Ring Central's been around for a long time compared to Zoom in the phone or the voice business. And they just hit 5 million. They had been at 3.5 for quite a long period of time in their publications. So I think it's, a leading indicator maybe of what's to come. And Zoom has two corporate initiatives this year. One is what we talked about on the last call about embracing partners. Sorry, I don't know what happened with my voice. Embracing partners. But then the other is to really bring Zoom Phone to market. And I think that they'll have success there because they don't sell 125 different things in their, in their line card. They sell meetings and phone really and events. So with their initiatives being, on that and focused on that and them compensating their resources, there's a lot of inertia behind the movement of Zoom going to market there. And I think once we see Zoom creep up a little bit more, that'll probably make Microsoft really nervous because Microsoft doesn't do a lot of advertising around their phone system, although their sellers this year are now paid on selling phone system. So they're trying to put that carrot out there to get people to pay attention to it. And they're only paid on selling the phone system license, the actual seat, nothing about calling plans. So that's where you all can come in and steer your customers the right direction.
Absolutely, yeah. So big things are coming in the market. Awesome. We're going to stick on this side of the Atlantic, and this is a question about spam filtering. And Grace from Ireland wants to know: does SIPPIO offer spam filtering in other countries beside the United States? Is there a tool or a script or a piece of regulation that we have to block spam calls?
So our provider in Ireland, abides by all the regulatory things that have been published in the EU. There's a very specific clause for it there. I think, Rob, you're going to kind of help me with this question and what we're seeing in the world of spam these days.
Sure. Yeah. So globally, we are an aggregator of global carrier services. So the kind of spam filtering that's the spam filtering that we have in place is actually being implemented by our other tier 1 carrier providers around the world. So, like, in addition to the implementation of the Stir Shaken suite of protocols, which are basically designed to help combat against caller ID spoofing, these other carriers can also have their own independent spam mitigation databases where they can still flag a call as being spam or potential spam. Basically, what happens with these databases, these individual phone numbers get a reputation score. And if a call starts exhibiting spam-like behavior, like making 10,000 plus calls a month, or if they start cycling sequentially through a range of dialed numbers, it can negatively affect your reputation score, and the call can be marked as potential spam or all the way down to being spam. And inversely, if you start backing off these kinds of calling behaviors, then your score will also start to come up and rise. But all in all, I mean, if there's cases where you suspect that your own calls are being incorrectly flagged as spam, we basically just ask of you to reach out to our support team for assistance, and we're here to help you out. We can go in, have some of these numbers whitelisted, and take the appropriate steps to make sure the spam flag is lifted if you are indeed being affected by it.
Yeah, I mean, spam to me is something along the lines of hacking and junk mail, right? Somebody with maybe a glass half empty type of approach to life is trying to do something to get at somebody else. And the carriers, it is in their very, very best interest to monitor this and continue to keep up with it as people are changing their tactics. The bad guys are changing their tactics because it reflects negatively on them. So most of them have various AI and other monitoring tools in place where they're looking for trends and untrends and different things like that. So we'll get notifications in the back end, like if one of our customers calls, Uganda 30 times in a row, and that's not normal according to the algorithms that have been programmed into those tools. We'll get a notification on it, and then we'll reach out to the customer through the partner to see if there's something, that's going on there that's unusual. But you also have to remember that these spam, measures that they put in place, even when they're governed by FCC and other regulatory agencies around the world, are kind of only as good as the weakest link. So if everybody participates and everybody does good, then that raises the bar higher for there being more of a contained environment that people can't get into. But then the bad guys are kind of always going on to figure out what's the next workaround for that. A lot of these laws are for people that abide by it. Like I follow the speed limit sign. My husband doesn't as much. So he'll get a ticket every once in a while, and then he'll slow down for a couple of days, and then he's back to whatever his usual tactics are. So we try to implement everything, and I know people don't like spam, and it's very bothersome, and it's a very hot topic right now because it seems to be at a relative all-time high, at least over the last couple of years of what we've seen. So just keep us abreast of any issues that your customers might be having, and the support team and Rob and David would be happy to work with you to resolve it.
That's fantastic. Awesome. Just a quick reminder, if anyone has any questions they'd like to ask the team, just to pop them in the chat box. We'll pick them up straight away, and then we'll get them answered for you. Now, the next question is a good one. This one's from James in San Diego, and I don't know who wants to answer this one, but James would like to know, what phone system does SIPPIO use for calling, Teams or Zoom? Maybe Dawn-Marie, you can take that one.
So we use both. Our initial selection that we had when we formed as an organization was with Microsoft, because we were a Microsoft shop for email, chat. I think we were probably Skype for Business before Teams come along. And we use that pretty much daily in our interactions, but we also use Zoom. So whenever I'm interacting with our Zoom partners, it's always over a Zoom phone call as opposed to a Teams phone call. Both run simultaneously on a desktop, and I have dial tone that goes out to both phones, supplied by our good friends at SIPPIO. Oh wait, that's us. So they live together, and one other thing that I'll say about this is I think both of these organizations are open to some friendly cooperation. I remember when I was at Microsoft back in the day when everything was closed down. If it wasn't Microsoft and supported by Microsoft, they were not going to support it. But then when they had new leadership come in, he opened up to supporting Apple products and to working with open source type of solutions. So I think over time, you'll probably see Microsoft and Zoom be able to do some sort of low level of support of each other. I know that Zoom has a direct routing, I don't want to call it a solution, but answer for Microsoft if somebody needs to take and land a phone call into a Microsoft phone. So that's what I'll say. We use both. Sometimes I call Neil on Zoom because it just seems to work over the pond a little bit easier. But for day-to-day type of stuff, we generally follow the collaboration product of whoever we're talking to's preference. But we don't use WebEx or GoToMeeting or any of those yet. So I don't know what that'll be like once we add on other logos, that we now have 5 applications and every phone is ringing.
Yeah. Well, that was a very diplomatic answer, I think. SIPPIO uses both. So yeah, whichever one is best for the job. Fantastic. So we have a question here from Paul.
Any questions? Where are all my question people that always have questions in the chat?
I'm sure they'll speak up, but yeah. The next question we have is about SIPPIO's international presence. Namely, does SIPPIO still provide services in Russia, and what are your plans for China and India?
Yeah, so I know Russia can be touchy right now, and we're trying not to make any sort of like political statements about it, but we do support our customers that are US or UK or wherever based, if they have users that reside in those countries, sometimes people are expats and have other reasons they leave their home country and go work someplace else. If your customer feels differently about it and wants to turn it off, turn it on, come talk to us. We're happy to abide by what their wishes are. And today we're continuing to support that until someone tells us otherwise. I wish Paul was here, but he is out with his daughter having her wisdom teeth taken out.
I can speak to it if you like.
But maybe, okay, you do that.
Yeah, so from on the India side, we are working with, there is some very interesting rules within India itself around how they conduct business, how they control it. The regulatory effects in India are quite aggressive, as they are in some other countries within Europe. So we are fairly close to being able to provide a service in India. We're still working through that detail. In fact, there's been a couple of meetings this week. There's no one on Friday, just to work out what that logistics is, where the DMAC points are, et cetera, et cetera. So stay tuned for India. So we're feeling pretty good about it. But again, there's still a little bit of way to go, but it's there, and everybody on both sides of that coin are very excited about getting it up and running and going. In regards to China, I'm going to defer back to you, Dawn Marie, on China. Again, there is some very serious rules in there, but I'll leave that with you to answer.
Yeah, I would just tell you China is a work in progress for us. We hope to be able to bring it to market, but we don't know if we will be able to. There's just tons and tons of trade rules, regulations, the fact that China doesn't want Daltone leaving their country, kind of the same way they handle internet. So as we have progress updates that are interesting, or we hit certain milestones, we'll let you know. But to date, this one is still has to be kind of handled locally within that country with a little bit of hardware gateway, because that's what the current status is. And everybody around the world has the same problem with this. And some country or some companies, like some of our competitors, they don't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole at all, because you assume some level of risk when you maybe are not doing business in that country and don't understand all of the rules and regulations that are there. But India, as David said, both us and the supplier in India are super excited. And we hope to have updates and be able to roll out that very soon. But I will solicit an ask out of all of you. If you have a customer that has users in India, we are looking for users in India to test and pilot with, because the porting regulations or the new number activations regulations, the user has to live and reside there and be able to meet all those conditions. And we don't have employees that are sitting there to test with, so we're really open to supporting a customer during a pilot phase to make sure that all the I's dot and the T's cross. So let us know if you have anyone.
Fantastic. So watch this space. Cool. Over to Rob now. I've got a question for you from Susan, and she would like to know why, when we onboard, do we set up 8 different domains? My small customers don't want to calls routed through APAC or South America. So why is there so much setup and stuff involved on that side of things?
Okay, so yeah, we do ask of our customers when they activate to build 8 domains, each of which correspond with one of the regions around the world that our solution resides in. But that doesn't mean that we take the call and primarily route and send the call directly to APAC, directly to South America. We have these 8 different regions around the world so that we can offer 8 layers of protection to you. Of course, you do have the option where if you wanted to go into voice panel, if you wanted to disable one of those regions, you could. But essentially what it all boils down to is it's not that we're primarily seeking to take your call and send it to one of these other regions. If you're within the US, you're making a phone call, we're going to use the Microsoft East Azure region. If you're in South UK, we'll use, or if you're in UK, we'll use the South UK Azure region. Basically, it all just boils down to we ask of these 8 domains to be built so that we can give you 8 layers of protection to give you a significant measure of comfort, knowing that you're always going to be able to make and take your phone calls. That's what it boils down to.
Right. So I would just say it in one word, redundancy, right? And we never have to worry that a call won't be able to be made or taken because it's just going to fail over. We rarely actually see calls fail over, but it's there for peace of mind and to ensure that we have the redundancy layer. So.
Absolutely, that's fantastic. So if you'll indulge me, I've got a question of my own that I'd like to put to you, and it's about how our partners can submit product feedback and what we do with the suggestions that we receive from our partners. So David, would you like to sort of explain and showcase how that happens?
Yeah, sure. So as you know, we have the platform, which is everybody's got access to, and this platform's again multiple layers. And in the platform, I'll actually steal the screen really quickly and just show you rather than telling you. Best way to go about it. So here you have the screen. This is the partner portal. This is my login with my demo account. And here we are over here is the feedback. This feedback goes directly to SIPPIO. It captures who the user's logged in as and their phone number and their email address, and then give us some feedback. Listen, the feedback is how we built the product. You know, some of these features that you see in here, like within number management, some of the things within the voice panel where you've got 2 different ways to search for people, that all came from you as partners. And so, you know, we can only be as good as our partner community. And so the more feedback we get is the better. And no idea is a bad idea. Just some ideas are before their time. And I love it. So send them in. I address them myself. And if you call Rob, for example, or Manny or Domri, any of them, they absolutely will represent you. And we will come back and tell you exactly when we're going to do it, if it's in the roadmap, or we'll be coming back and asking additional questions. Because I tell you, the partner portal today, I will, you know, take some of the credit, but I've got to give a lot of the credit to the partners, because really at the end of the day, if it wasn't for you and for my team and the team you see on the call, the partner portal would be what it is. So I appreciate it. So any feedback, the better. And again, this is how you do it.
Good. That's really cool that you have it right in the tool. I'm going to submit my feature that I would like to be able to order Starbucks from the partner portal and have it delivered.
That'd be a great idea just before it's time, Don Marie.
No problem. So, Sam and Aaron, I don't think that the chat is working for some reason, because this is like highly unusual, and I got some weird message a little bit ago. So if we want, we could end with that, I think, since we're kind of at time. And then in the follow-up, why don't we ask people for additional questions that they have, and we'll get back to them. Or they can always pick up the phone and call any one of us here and ask their question. You know, these are actual real life things that people ask us every single day. And we want to make sure that we don't just respond back to the individual, but to everybody, so that we're building a knowledge base out there. So with that, Sam, I'll let you wrap up.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that, Marie, and thank you everyone for joining us today. I know a lot of people are away enjoying their summer vacations, so we're really grateful to all of you who joined us live, and those of you who sent questions in advance. Like Marie said, we'll make the recording available to playback later today. If you've got any questions, like Marie said, the SIPPIO team are here to support. Just reach out. We're happy to help. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you all again soon. Thank you.